Welcome to the Teen Leadership Summit. I am your host, Andrea Zacharias, and I am so excited you have tuned in to our speaker series. Today, our expert is Lorraine Pursell. Family harmony expert Lorraine Pursell has coached people around the world into the happiness they deserve. TV and radio personality, popular speaker, and international best-selling author, has a master's in marriage, family, and child counseling, and is a board-certified educational therapist. Get her free ebook, 3 Keys to Self-Love.com for tips on raising your family well while taking care of yourself. Ooh, I had a mouthful there.
A lot of W's.
I am so pleased to introduce Lorraine to you all today. Lorraine, hello, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Andrea, and thanks for that great introduction. I'm kind of blushing. I forget about all that stuff. It's just, yeah. Hi, so glad to be here with you.
Hi, I'm so happy to have this conversation with you. And I wanted to just get started and ask you, if you could just share a little bit about yourself and tell us what got you doing this fabulous work that you're doing today with families and couples and individuals.
Well, what I realized was I've been coaching and counseling for 20 plus years in California, Hawaii, and now in North Dakota, and I work with people all over the world, like you said. It's really an honor, and the reason I went into self-care so much, Andrea, is, and I know this ties in with parents teaching their kids to be leaders, because when I asked my clients to tell me 5 things they liked about themselves, they could not. And I would even stand with them in front of the mirror and go, okay, let's I like my smile, I like my hair, I like my teeth. They felt so embarrassed to do that. I'm like, something's wrong with this picture. If people can't appreciate and value themselves, they're not going to be able to heal. So that's when I wrote the free ebook, 3 Keys and 13 Tools to Self-Love, which is the free gift I'm offering. And it's really become a big body of work for me to make sure that, as well as healing families and healing relationships and healing individuals in my coaching practice, that people can actually take that a step further and really appreciate themselves. And I think this is what leaders really need. They really need to appreciate themselves, because without that, they don't have a foundation, because they're going to be getting so much flack from other people and so much criticism. They must know who they are and hold strong to that, so they can be confident.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what are the most important practices that parents can start implementing in their life now to help their children feel empowered?
Yeah, that's a great question, Andrea. And, and I know I'm not saying anything new to the parents. I mean, you watching right now, you know all of this. And so I'm just reminding you to pay more attention to it so that you can really be an example to your kids. So the whole thing is not you saying it and not you suggesting it, but you doing it yourself in your own life. And there are actually 3 keys that I outline in the ebook, and I wanted to just go through those really quickly because this is so vital, so vital. It seems so simple, but it is simple, but it's really not easy to do. So as you demonstrate this, continue to demonstrate it, because I know you already are demonstrating it, but as you continue to demonstrate it, you're going to super empower your teen as well as empower yourself, and that's what I'm all about. So the first key is to only do, see, hear, and be around what makes you feel good. To only do, see, be, and hear, and be around what makes you feel good, because so often we tolerate situations that are negative people, critical people, people who complain, watching television that isn't edifying and doesn't lift us up. I mean, leaders really need to be strong, and they need to have a high vibration. So the only way to do that is when you're with somebody who's bringing you down, criticizing you, dissing you, you don't feel good around them, you must separate and get away from them. So that's the key number 1. So as you let your child know, you let your teen know that this is what you're doing, this is why you're no longer associating with Sally, or no longer associating with Jennifer or this particular group because they complain and that brings you down, and I don't want to be doing that in my life. I want to have more empowerment. I want to have a higher vibration, I want to make more of a difference and be more of an influence in the world, then you're really living the example, and then your child's going to go, oh, what am I doing? Who am I hanging around who's maybe a complainer, who is like an Eeyore, you know, always got something wrong going on, and is attracting that to themselves. So that's the first one. And the key number 2 is to honor your feelings and cue into your gut. So I would just ask you right now to just put your hand on your gut. See, can you see it right here? Mm-hmm. And on your heart. And just ask your heart and your gut, what is it saying to you right now? So just cue in to what it might be telling you. And the more we do that and just listen to our body, you know, our body never lies. And so when we are in a situation where we start to feel that flutter, we start to feel a butterfly, or we start to feel like dread, pay attention. So honor your feelings. And as you honor your feelings as a parent, you're going to be a demonstration to your child to be a leader and honor their feelings. This is how they're going to know right from wrong, which peer group to be with, which peer group not to be with, what feels right, what empowers them, what makes them feel better about themselves, what is the group that wants them to be with them. And then the third key is to love yourself enough to walk away. And so often we find ourselves in these situations where we tolerate. And do you love yourself enough? Do you care enough about what you're feeling inside? Are you honoring your heart and what you're feeling enough to actually walk away from a bad marriage, a bad relationship, someone who's emotionally abusive, something that's just bringing down your energy, maybe a friend who's been a friend since you're a child, but every time you're on the phone with them, they're making you nuts. You're like, what do you love yourself enough to walk away? And as you demonstrate that to your child, you are empowering them so much to be a leader, because teens just follow. We need leaders, and I'm so glad you're doing this summit, Andrea, because we really need to teach our teens to be leaders for the next generation. And if your child is one of those that you've taken the time by your demonstration to really take care of you, and I'm giving you permission right now, an invitation right now to do that, because I know it takes time, I know it takes energy, and I know you have to say no to a lot of people and things in order to find the time to take care of you, then you're golden. Because you're actually not saying, do as I say, not as I do, but you're actually saying, look, I'm doing this. What do you think about this? Who do you have in your life that you might want to set aside? Not completely reject, send them love, but to be a leader, you have to really be protective of your environment and what comes into you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I so agree when you were saying just before that, these are simple steps, but not easy steps. Simple, but not necessarily easy. And they make complete sense, obviously, but definitely takes a conscious effort to make those changes. And I'm just so curious, with your work, with the people that you work with, in your opinion, why do you see that people have a hard time, getting away from those people that are bringing them down? And, that why is it so difficult to change that mindset?
So glad you asked that.
And be with people that are more uplifting, that are going in the direction that you want to go in. What would you say?
So glad you asked that question. It's the underlying difficulty, right? Well, a lot of those people, because they're so needy, can be manipulative and know exactly how to press our buttons and make us feel guilty. And so if you love yourself first and you care enough about yourself, it's like if you had a beautiful garden and you had it all fertilized and just beautiful, you wouldn't go out and dump your trash on it. So you love that garden and you tend it. And so if you love yourself and your inner being and your spirit and your consciousness enough to really tend that garden, you're not going to let somebody come and just dump their trash on it, which is they're complaining, they're backbiting, gossiping about people. It's been so many years since I've been around anybody who's gossiped and backbite. I don't even know what it sounds like anymore. And that's because I I made such a conscious effort to clear the decks on that years and years and years ago. They can't even vibrate into me. So it's possible, but we just have to, it's like pulling weeds, and they'll pop up and they'll pop up and they'll pop up. You just pull the weeds. Say, I love you. I'm sending you love. This is not about you. This is about me taking care of me. This is not really working for me. Or you don't have to say anything to them. You can just take care on a subtle level, and then pretty soon they're going to vibrate out of your realm. Mm-hmm. They really will, because they're going to be uncomfortable with someone who's so positive. Mm-hmm. If there's someone who is negative. Mm-hmm. I have someone in my life right now that I think that's why he's not communicating with me, because I can't handle his complaining, and he's just vibrated out of my realm. Mm-hmm. And it's actually a close family member. Mm-hmm. Okay. But every time he's with me, I hear complaint, and everything's bad, and oh my God, the end of the world. I'm like, I cannot talk to you anymore. This is like, this is bumming me out. I've got to keep my energy high for what I'm doing, especially if you're raising a teen to be a leader. You must keep your energy high.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a big, big, big job.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that. And you just kind of mentioned it right now, and you were talking about a family member, and a lot of times those people may not necessarily be friends or they could be, or colleagues or whatnot, but a lot of times it might be someone in our inner circle, in our family, and sometimes we may not be able to just completely X them out. It's family. But the key is for you not to feed into that negativity, and, be at a higher positive state. And, either they change or they don't, but maybe you'll just be around it less.
Mm-hmm. Like a good tip, if you're around somebody who's gossiping, like what I even used to do in high school, like way back then, it used to really bother me, is a disconnect with my spirit. And I would say, well, whatever they're talking about, say, well, maybe they were thinking this, mm-hmm. or maybe they were doing that. I would always go, well, maybe this was going on for them. Mm-hmm. And so people just learned that they couldn't complain to anybody and have me go, yeah.
Right.
And I would never do that.
Right.
It was like, well, I wonder what's going on for them. Things must be really hard for them.
Yeah.
And if you just start relating like that, the people who complain, they're not going to have any satisfaction, because, gossip and backbiting, it just feeds itself.
Absolutely.
With other people to do that, it's like no, we're going to decelerate that by going, gee, I wonder, they must need a lot of love and attention right now, if that's what's going on.
Yeah.
If I were in their shoes, this is what I would be thinking. I wonder how they're doing. They need a friend right now.
Right.
Those people who are bent on being negative, they're not going to have much more to say to you.
Yeah.
You're not going to be a sounding board for that.
Right.
Pretty soon it'll just all work out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really key, because a lot of the teens that I work with, they don't like being around the gossip, but they end up being around the gossip anyway. So this right here is a huge strategy tool for teens themselves of how to, if you don't want to be around the gossip and it happens, this is how you can deal with it. And eventually, you won't be around it. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And one other thing just came to my mind, Andrea. I heard from one of my clients that her dad, who's from South America, said it's better to be alone than to be with bad company. And I remember when I was in high school, I really was alone. I was popular. People liked me. But every time I was around the popular kids, they would do things that were painful. Like they would make fun of kids who were less fortunate or maybe not as popular, and I could not abide with them. I could not be with them. So I resorted to just having lunch by myself and just being with myself, and it was such a great time because I found out I didn't need them. I didn't need to be popular. I didn't need to hang out with these people, but I was seen as a leader because I was not a follower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, being alone isn't comfortable. It isn't nice necessarily, but at the same time, you are being seen as a leader when you stand away from the crowd and using your voice. So, yeah, definitely. Like we've been saying, simple but not easy.
Yes.
So I'm curious, out of your perspective, what do you see as a really important either personality trait or skill set that teens really need to develop in order to become confident, powerful leaders?
Well, I think in order to be confident, you have to be willing to stand alone. You have to love yourself enough and know what it is that you really appreciate about yourself, that if other people don't like it, you can still stand alone. That might sound a little tough, but it's the bottom line truth. In order to be confident, you have to appreciate yourself and you have to love yourself. There is no other way to be confident. You can fake it till you make it, but truly there are 5 things right now that you really love about yourself. And I just encourage you right now just to take a moment and just write those 5 things down. I like my smile. I like my personality. I'm really friendly and outgoing. I'm a great mom. I'm a great dad. I really truly care about the people who are in my life. I'm conscious. I'm always thinking about how I can serve, and I take care of myself. Whatever it is, just write those 5 things down right now and review them every day. Like, this is what I like about myself. This is what I appreciate about myself. These are my leadership traits. This is what's going to really build the confidence. And so, again, as you do this, and you have maybe a game with your child. Okay, this is, when I say child, I mean your teenager, but also if you have young ones too. Okay, game, this is what I like about myself today. Tell me 5 things you like about you. And then you get in the habit of doing that, and pretty soon you've got a whole arsenal of things that you truly love about yourself, and your confidence just goes up.
Absolutely. This is something I've tried, I do with my teams, my clients, and at first I have to tell you, there's a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
They feel very uncomfortable because we live in a society where thinking highly of yourself is looked down upon. It's almost like you and a lot of people confuse this confidence, this positive thinking about yourself as, being self-centered, being egotistical. And that's a mind switch that, a thought process that needs to switch, because the more that you see, I think of my 4-year-old nephew, and I don't remember what we were doing. He did something great. I'm like, that's wonderful. How'd you do that? And he's like, because I'm awesome. Yeah. You are awesome. And then when did that stop? That thought process stop? And it's so critical, so important to continue that so that you feel confident, so you can try new things and you're like, yes, I'm this, I can still do that. So I love that exercise. So if you're watching right now, I'm telling you to pause right now, write those things, and then, press play and come back to that, because it's really, really important to do that. So what would you say for the parents? How can they support those children so, they can continue this confidence, this path of confidence?
Well, I just gave 14 talks last week to my whole school district for the kindergarten screening of 300 kids, like over 300 kids who were coming in. And one of the things that I pointed out to them is that the blanket, just because you were born, I love you. And just because you breathe, you're so wonderful, is good as the foundation, but it's not what builds self-esteem. What really builds self-esteem is, I really like how you did that. When you finished your homework or you got a B+ on that test, man, I know how hard you worked on that. I just acknowledge you and I see that. Or, I saw how you sort of went to that person when I dropped you off at school. You went to that unpopular person and you actually said, hey, how are you doing? I acknowledge you for that. When you bring out these little things like this, that's what really builds that confidence. But it's not the blanket stuff that really builds the self-esteem. It's that. Did I answer your question? I don't think that was the answer to your question.
That's great.
Oh, is it? Okay, so so it's important to be specific, and that will also help your team to be specific about, I really appreciate that I helped that unattractive girl, or that girl that isn't super popular, I help her carry her books. Or I said hi to her and I smiled to her. So they can really acknowledge themselves for those. That's leadership. That is leadership. Being snotty and being conceited is not leadership. And you're so right, Andrea, that it is our culture thinks it's wrong and selfish to love ourselves. But it says love our neighbors as ourselves, and that's the problem. We do, and that's why there are wars all over the world, and wars in our neighborhoods, and wars in our cities, and our counties, and our states, and blah blah blah, because we don't love ourselves, and so we automatically care for people the way we care for ourselves. So our biggest imperative is to really, really, really love and care for ourselves. One of the biggest first steps is writing down those things that you really appreciate, and let your self-appreciation grow. Huge. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
Any other way you get to it, there will be cracks in your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I'm so big on this, because even though people talk about self-love this, self-love that, they don't do it. They're still not doing it. Self-care this, self-care that, they're still not doing it. Mm-hmm. They're still sacrificing themselves for their families. And I don't think we should sacrifice ourselves for our families. I think we should never do for our kids what they can do for themselves. Never, ever, ever. Mm-hmm. Teach our kids to do it themselves, because if you want a really fast, shocking exercise, write the number 18 on your right now and subtract your child's age. Mm-hmm. And these are how many years you have left to influence your child. Mm-hmm. And the smaller that number, the less influence you actually have.
Wow.
Doesn't mean it's too late.
Right.
But they have all these other influences, not you anymore.
Right.
So you can go to them and say, what have I been doing for you that you can do for yourself? Because we've really got to pick this up. I've got a lot. We've got to teach you about money, cooking, shopping, showing up to work on time, staying at work, the laundry, cleaning. There's so much. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing for your kids what they can do for themselves, you're not raising a leader.
Right.
So what are you doing that you can offhand to them? Teach them how to do it so they feel proficient. Because they're going to be deer in the headlights when they leave, because you're not going to be there anymore. They can legally emancipate at 18. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge thing to hand all of that off to them. And even though they're not going to like it, it's doing the right parent thing, which is not the popular thing.
Yeah.
It's the thing that your child will not like. But it's like, it's time for you to learn how to handle your laundry on the weekends. I'm tired. Yes. You are tired. I know that you are tired.
Yeah.
Because this is what I work with women all over the world who are chronically fatigued and adrenal exhausted, because they have just been doing too much for their family, and they're robbing you're robbing your family of the opportunity for them to grow. So I know that's a little hard, but I'm actually giving you permission and the right to take care of you, because everything you do for your child that they can do for themselves, you're handicapping them.
Yeah.
So it's time to offload that.
Yeah.
Time to offload that. So you can have some time, and pardon the noise, you can have some time for you. How novel.
How amazing.
Hey, I'm reading a book now, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please get me a glass of water.
Yeah, right? You said so much right there. Fantastic points. And I want to just go back to what you were saying earlier about acknowledging and validating your children for the acts that they do, for their behaviors, and the positive behaviors that they do. And just in doing that, they're going to do the same to others. They're going to acknowledge and validate others. And that's what a leader does. A leader acknowledges and validates, whether it's their subordinates or even, those that are, their leaders as well. And it's such an important skill set to practice constantly, because that's how you get buy-in, but also that's how people want to follow you as well, and again, for the positive things that they're doing. So that was beautiful. I loved all of that you said. And the self-care, I agree with you completely. We talk about it a lot. We talk about it, and then we say we don't have time for it. We know that we need to do it, and we have time. I do that sometimes, and I finally got to the point where I have to schedule it in my planner and look at it. Okay, even if it's just 10 or 20 minutes, must do it, because I can't give if I'm not taking time just to replenish myself. So I agree with you with that one. So, I think we kind of touched upon it, but is there anything else that you want to say in regards to how parents can help their children become independent and take responsibility, especially in this age where they're soon going to be, off on their own, and take responsibility for their growing, their learning, and really their future? If there was anything else you wanted to add to that.
Well, I would say, Andrea, for them to go within and ask their heart and ask their gut, what is my child needing right now? What am I doing for them that they can do for themselves, and what do they need? And you can go to your child and actually say, you're going to be leaving in 2 or 3 or 4 years. What do you need from me to make sure that you're going to be capable? And they will tell you honestly, and they will appreciate it so much. My son, when he was in college, he called me on the phone. He said, Mom, thank you so much for not letting me walk all over you when I was a teen. He actually called me and told me that. And I was not a popular parent when he was a teen. I was on him like a brick. Okay, so I had actually a parent mentor helping me do the right thing, because I had no idea what to do. So, it's like, he's 14. I've got 4 more years. What does this child need? And so the things that she had me do were very difficult because I didn't know that if he was going to love me afterwards. And that's the thing. We think that we might lose our children's love if we do what I call the right parent thing, which is the thing that in your gut and your heart that you need to do to teach your child to be independent and to be fully equipped to be a contributing member to society, which a leader is. And yet we shirk back because we want to be their friend instead of their parent. Yeah. And that's not what they want. They want the parent. They do not want the friend. My son and I are friends now because I no longer have to parent him.
Right.
Okay, and just like the other day, I gave him advice, and it was a bad thing for me to do, because once your child leaves, don't give them advice unless they ask. I gave him advice, and he had to come back to me on a phone call later and say, please don't do that again. So you have to wait once they're gone. But when they're in your household, you are the parent, and what is the way that you want your house to run smoothly? Are they contributing to your household, or are they freeloading? Are they carrying their weight, or are you carrying their weight for them? And I'm here to tell you, and if you need any support on this, just get that ebook. You'll be on my email list, and you and I can connect, because I offer free calls all the time where you and I can connect, and I can help you get through a logjam. How do I now turn this big Titanic around that my son or my daughter is almost leaving, or they're in their teen years, and I kind of made a mess? How am I going to do this?
Absolutely.
And I can help you with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So before we go, if there were 1 or 2 points that you really want, our audience to keep in mind, what would that be? Or what would they be?
Well, the 1 or 2 points would always be to be in connection with your inner being, because we're so distracted by everything else. I mean, what can you do to get stillness and peace in your life? What can you do to have time for you to know who you are and to minister to yourself? Because as you do that is the only way that you're going to be strong enough to pull this job off without getting adrenal exhaustion and chronic fatigue and these sorts of things. So that's the number one thing I would say, is always listen to your inner heart and your gut. Meditate and pray every day. Really have your strength inside of you and with your maker, or whoever that is for you. So that's the number one thing. And then the next thing is to follow through and really listen to what feels good, and only be around what feels good to you. The more you pay attention to your body and what it's telling you, the clearer your intuition and instinct is going to be. And that's really all we have as parents, is our instinct and our intuition. That's all. We have nothing else. So as we develop that, and your appreciation for yourself is growing, it's just going to get better and better and better, and you're going to be an example for your child. That's the only way they can be a leader and be balanced.
Yeah, awesome. It's like, be the leader of your family. Teach them by being that leader, and then they'll have that model of like, okay, this is what I've seen for my entire life, and this is what I want to reproduce and continue doing. Love that. So go ahead.
You might ask your child, what do you need right now to take care of you? And just open up that question in your family. What do you need right now to take care of you? Okay, you need a nap. Okay, after you do the dishes, go and take a nap. But make sure that they are contributing to the household. Huge.
Yeah. I have a question on that for you. What would you say to that parent who thinks that by asking their child what they need, they're giving up control?
Ooh.
Because I'm sure there are some people who might feel that way.
Okay, so I'm listening. Gosh, I think that's a whole other topic, really. If you come from a place of having a relationship with your child, you shouldn't worry so much about having to have control. Because if you're having a relationship with them, that means that they are in touch with themselves. And so with 2 people being in touch with themselves, you can still be that parent and not that friend, but still have control of your household And so are we talking about out of control teens and this kind of thing and how to be controlling of them? Is that what you're talking about, Andrea?
Just in general, parents feel like, these are my rules. This is how, what must be done in my home. And, if you're asking, what do you need? You might be letting go of these rules, these expectations.
Yeah, but if your child is only in a place where they're only following rules and they're not listening to themselves, you've not made a leader, you've made a follower. So the sooner that you can open up the conversation to, is this rule serving us as a family? How do we need to alter it? How do we need to change this to fit everybody? And have their great input. And this is how you create a leader, is by people putting everything out on the table, and then you're still the parent and deciding, or how do we do this together in a more democratic way, but you're getting your child involved so that they can listen to their voice rather than just following the rules that you set out. I think that's a really important discussion, and I'm kind of afraid because it got brought up at the last minute. I hope that I could address that clearly, because I don't agree with ruling with an iron fist. Or doing as I say, not as I do, or you don't have a voice.
Right.
If you must let your child have a voice, but not disrespectfully, but they need to voice their opinion, because if they're not allowed to express themselves under your household, we've heard so many stories about this, where kids will pop off and go to college and binge drink or drug or something because they haven't had the opportunity to get to know who they are under your household. So I would recommend opening up those conversations, like, what do you need right now? Okay, great. Do that after you do the family contribution.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. And, I do apologize for asking that question. Just kind of came up at that very end. But you're right. It's again, that validation, acknowledgement, and that constant conversation and connection.
Yes.
So if you are a parent who's, afraid of letting go, well, that, like you just said, when they're not used to being able to feel like they're trustworthy, they kind of go out of control when they're out of your safety under your roof. So it's something to, slowly, you can, if you're someone who's struggling with that, slowly, kind of let go, and then, and then I would ask, what's going on with you that you're having that, what's going on internally for you that you're struggling with that as well.
And it could be insecurity. And the other thing is, if you run your house like that, your child is just going to want to get away from you, and they're not going to want to be with you. And what we want is a long-term relationship with our children. I have a very close relationship with my son, and he's 36 now. And so, the only way you can do that is to open up these dialogues. Ask them, what do you dream of? What do you think of? What is your favorite movie? What did you like about that character? If they have a big book to read that book with them. Read it alongside them so you can actually discuss it and write that report with them. There's so many things, Andrea, I would just love to go into this more. I don't want to take up too much time, but just there are ways to be the parent, definitely be the parent. They know what's required, but the closer they get to 18, if you want them to still be in your life, which I know you do, you have to open up these conversations. And again, if you get my ebook, you'll be on my email list. I offer free calls, and we can go through some of these things. I can help you get untangled from some of these things that you might be in right now, which, in our own best efforts, we make a ton of mistakes as parents. There's no way to get around it. Parenting is an art and not a science.
Yes.
And so every day is different. We just do our best, and I know that you have been doing your best. So again, I know that you have been doing your best. And we might need to tweak it a little bit. Yeah.
So I want to remind everyone that, once again, with this interview is also Lorraine's free gift. So make sure you do get access. Click on that and give your information, and you can get access to that free gift. Is there anything else you wanted to add about that free gift? I know it's about those 3 keys that you mentioned earlier. If you want to let us know anything else about it.
Yeah, there's the 3 keys. I go into my story, so you'll hear my story and not feel like I'm just this uppity parent person, because I'm really not. I really come from, man, I was in trouble. So this story tells you, how I was in trouble, how I pulled myself out of it, and how I learned these 3 keys for myself and went on to use it with my clients. And also there are 13 tools in there to practice self-love. just simple things like a mirror exercise and how to, listen to your inner heart and your inner being. But it's all about doing this so that you can raise your family well, and you can have your great big life while you're raising your family well, so that they'll know how to go forth and live their great big life and not feel guilty when they leave you because maybe you're the most important thing in their life. It is important for us to love our families and to still have our great big life.
That's fantastic. Lovely. Thank you so much, Lorraine. I loved our
Andrea.
conversation. It was a great discussion.
I enjoyed it too. I hope that this is helpful. And again, I just invite everyone to reach out to me. And I'd love to just spend a little time with you on the phone and we can connect and hear what's going on for you and how we can just make it better what you're already doing.
Absolutely.
Love to hear.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for your attention. And we will be back tomorrow with our next speaker. Have a fantastic day. Bye.
Thanks, Andrea.
Bye.
Bye.